So now Flight Simulator 2024 has its own planner and some additional tools built in already out of the box. Is there still some added value for Navigraph? That's what we're gonna look into in this video. Let's roll the intro and then let's look at the details. Navigraph is one of the partners for Flight Simulator 2024, but also for 2020, and they're known for their charts solutions, right? I'd say one of their famous solutions, which likely everybody knows, is SimBrief, right? I didn't have it even open here, but SimBrief is a tool where you can create your flight plans and then use them in Flight Simulator 2020, but also in 2024. But besides that, there's the, I would say, subscription which you can buy from Navigraph, right? So if we go to the pricing, we can see that you've got, I would say, one subscription, which is either the, I would say, a monthly paid or the yearly paid, and it's unlimited, and now it's discounted for 25%, so pretty interesting. So what do they provide besides, I would say, the Navigraph RAC updates, which are happening every 28 days, and that's, I would say, is normal, right? That's also the, I would say, the same pattern as Flight Simulator takes. So Flight Simulator also gets those updates, so you don't need to worry about them too much. But what else is included more than compared to the Flight Simulator 2024 content, which you already have, right? Because there are the IFR maps or the VFR maps, which are in Navigraph. But hey, they're now also covered in Flight Simulator 2024. For those who are still on Flight Simulator 2020, of course, you will need to have this add-on, because then you will have this fantastic tool, also those fantastic additions. But is it still really worth in Flight Simulator 2024? Let's have a look at it, right? So first of all, we can see a lot of applications. One of them is the Navigraph Charts, which is here, right? And you can see I just updated it, so I can restart it. And then I get the latest and greatest, and I've got access to the maps. I can plan my flights. I can even import them via SimBrief, right? So if I create a flight plan using SimBrief, I can now import it easily in the Navigraph Charts. And the good thing about this one is that you can live follow your aircraft. And that's really an advantage compared to the, I would say, web view of Flight Simulator 2020, right? The flight planner. This one, you can even install it on a second machine, for example, your phone or your tablet, and then you can live track where your aircraft is located. And that's sometimes very useful, right? Especially if you want to, I would say, follow your flight. That really makes it, I would say, pleasant to use. Besides that, of course, there are all the maps, right? If we go to the flights, and if we go, for example, to Amsterdam Schiphol, if we open the maps, we can see the star, the A, right? The standard terminal arrival route. We can see the approaches, the taxiway routes, the standard instrumental departures, but also the reference cards. And those are really, really detailed, right? If we open them, let me, for example, open one of the approaches. Then you can see that this is, I would say, similar compared to the ones which are in Flight Simulator 2024. Although there's no Navigraph, I would say, on the bottom right, but they are still delivered by Jeppesen, which is the chart vendor which is creating those charts and also providing them. The good thing about, I would say, the tool itself, right, is that it allows you to also visualize the stuff. This, of course, also is introduced in Flight Simulator 2024 and also with the Flight Planner tool. So I'm really wondering when, I would say, Flight Simulator 2024, which means Asobo and Microsoft, are on par with Navigraph. I do think that it will take some time, because Navigraph has already existed for a very long time. The Charts app will get a major update soonish, because they announced a new version. So that's really cool. And here you can see a lot of cool things. Right here you can, for example, see the departures. So if I depart from Schiphol Airport, then these are the departures from this specific runway. So you can easily, I would say, filter down the runway. And based on that, I would say it will give me a different overview, of course, right? So this, for example, runway 36 Charlie, then these are the departures. And that really makes it really nice, right? You can even click on it, and then you will go to the map, and then you can open the respective chart also. So this is really cool. Besides that, of course, there's the weather information, which also is, I would say, pulled here using the different formats, and also the ATIS information, which you can easily get from here. So really nice tool, but didn't show you the most nice thing, and that's this one over here. You can even draw on the maps, right? So for example, if you, let me show you, let's say, a more suitable example, right? Let's assume that you want to do taxiway. Now I need to find the taxiway map, of course, which is, I would say, kind of, let's say, hard always. Let's use this one. So let's assume that you want to draw on the map, right? You want to draw your, let's say, flight plan, or you want to draw your route. Then you can now do that inside the chart app. You can select the color, right? And based on that, you can say, hey, I want to draw, for example, a square, or I want to draw a circle, but you can also draw freely, right? So you can see, I can say, okay, hey, if I'm located here, I need to go like this, and then this, I need to cross the runway, and then move all over here. Sorry for my drawing skills, up to here, right? This is my taxi route, which is defined. And that's really cool. And besides that, you can also say set the line thickness, but also undo, of course, the things, or delete it. And then you can clear the annotations. So the annotations functionality is really something which is unique to Navigraph compared to Flight Simulator 2024. Besides that, there's the Navigraph Hub. And the Navigraph Hub, as the name already says, is a hub where you can install all kind of tools, right? You can install the simulator base packages for 2020, but also for 2024. Currently, the packages for 2024 are in beta, which means that they're not officially released, so there might be some hiccups, but hey, they're available. And if we look at them, right, you can easily install them by simply pressing install, and you can see it goes very, very fast. And we'll put all those items nicely in the community folder, which you defined in your Flight Simulator 2024 installation. In this case, you will have the latest RAC cycle, you will have the avionics plugins for the G1000, the G3000 and 5000, and the G3x, as well as the Navigraph Charts in-game panel, which I will cover later, as well as the EFB Charts app and the SimBrief EFB app. The last two are integrated within the electronic flight bag. The other one is an in-game panel where you can quickly, I would say, view the maps. I would say similar to the charts map, although a little bit more limited. Besides that, the other advantage is that they will also deliver, let's say, Navigraph updates for third-party aircrafts. I only have one, the Phoenix Simulations A320, as you can see. This one is, I would say, I can easily install it. But also, if I would go back to 2020, you can see that there are also add-on packages. So those add-on packages are mostly, I would say, installed outside of Flight Simulator. However, it's a little bit weird, right? Because they say installed in Flight Simulator. But okay, hey, that's it. And then you can also install those updates easily via this panel, which allows you to always benefit from the latest updates inside those aircrafts, which is sometimes, would say, not possible because it simply, would say, is not built in. But due to the, let's say, cooperation between Navigraph and that third-party vendor, they have, let's say, made this available. And in most cases, you will also have the SimBrief integration in that case, right? These are just a few, but of course there are also other, I would say, integrations with SimBrief. If you think, for example, about the fly-by-wire A320, right? Or the A380, if you want to try it. There is SimBrief integration already in it. And in most cases, they also have added the Navigraph Charts in their electronic flight pack, but they did it themselves. These ones are provided by Navigraph, while the other ones are created as part of the package already. So enough about this. Let's start Flight Simulator 2024 and then let's look at the differences. So Flight Simulator 2024 has started. So let's have a look at the EFB, right? The electronic flight pack, and let's increase the screen a bit so we can all see it pretty clear. And if we go to the more apps, we can now see two apps have been added. One is the Navigraph Charts and the other one is the SimBrief Dispatch. Keep in mind that the Navigraph Charts also is in beta, and I would say experienced some weird issues with it that I would say didn't show these I would say menus, but that was likely due to the window opening very small. So be aware of that. If you also experience it, then I would say make sure that you increase the screen size, then it will work. And from here you can see everything, right? So for example, I can search for an airport, right? Let me do it. I can either type it or I can use this small, I'd say, tablet over here. and then I can go to the airport, right, and get all the information. Similar compared to the external app, the external charts app, which I can use. I can view the general information, I can view the charts, I can look at the procedures, but also at the weather, right? So that really is, I would say, a nice stuff, which you can see over here. And it's fully integrated within the electronic flight bag, which is now available in Flight Simulator 2024. The other thing which you have is, of course, the SimBrief dispatch. For the SimBrief dispatch, you need to be signed in, as you can see, and then from there on you can create a flight, right? So you can simply say new flight, and from there on you can create a flight. So for example, if I fly with, well, let's say KLM, and then 45678, and then the departure is, of course, EHAM, right? And this gives me the integrated view within, in this case, Flight Simulator 2024, right? So I can search for the airport, I can select it from here, and then I can search for a destination, right? So if we want to fly to New York, for example, I can type it, but it won't work, of course, because I need to hit the search one, and over here I can type New York. So if you know the ICAO code, you can type it in, but if you don't know it, then you can select it from here, right? I can say, hey, I want to fly to LaGuardia. Well, in that case, I select it, then I can simply follow the same pattern as I would normally do in SimBrief, right, on the website. And then you can see that I can get everything. The nice thing about the Navigraph subscription is that you always can use the latest RAC cycle, right? So RAC 2413, that's the latest RAC cycle. You can see it became active on the 26th of December and is valid until the 22nd of January 2025. And that's, I would say, an advantage, because based on what I can remember, you can't do that, I would say, in SimBrief if you don't have this subscription. And from there on, you can plan your flight, right? So you can say, okay, hey, this is fine for me. I want to, let's say, do a calculate and compare, which is available in SimBrief. You can do a briefing preview, you can save the flight, you can share the flight, or you can, of course, start a new flight. Besides that, there is some integration in here, right? Because you can already see it. Normally you would have this, which is the SimBrief integration, but you also have the Navigraph integration. So for example, if I want to see the high IFR map, I can click it. I can go to the low IFR map. I can go to the VFR map. And based on this, I can say save my preference, right? That's really nice. So once you're happy, right, you can generate the flight, and then of course you can, let's say, use it inside Flight Simulator 2024, inside the aircraft, right? So, hey, if this is not being defined, okay, then I likely need to define something, right? So Antonov AN22. And then I would say based on that, right, it defined this flight. In this case, I want to switch to high IFR, which will show me a different view, as you can see. So relatively easy, simply click generate flight. And then you're good to go, because it generates everything for you on the fly. So once it has done this, you can of course look at the PDF, right? Because it generated a nice thing, which is the PDF. By default, it will open up a web browser. So keep in mind it will bring you back to, I would say, your external view. This is something which I would have hoped that they would have integrated, but unfortunately it's not there. And that's where you can fly the OFP, right? The online flight plan. And that's really cool, right? So, and I said online flight plan, but I think it's operational flight plan. So OFP, right, for short. So with that, right, you can also do a pre-file, and that's where I would say SimBrief or Navigraph is unique in, because you can also pre-fill it with external, in this case, ATC, right, virtual flying networks like VetSim, Ivao, Pilot Edge, Postcon, and say intentions.ai. You can pre-file your flight there also, which is natively integrated into the tooling. Of course, you can also do this, I would say, directly from SimBrief yourself, but there's also a nice advantage compared to the default tools which you have within Flight Simulator. Of course, then also you've got the IFPS validation, right? You can let Eurocontrol do an IFPS check, and this is good. And that really makes it really pleasant to fly. Of course, then also we've got the takeoff and landing performance, but in this case I selected the wrong airplane, or an airplane which doesn't support it, right? So there you can't calculate. But if you would, for example, select an A320 or 747, then you will be able to do it. Now we created this. You can also go to the flights, and these flights are the flights which you kind of pre-created earlier, right? And you can see you also have the option to delete them. So once you're done with a flight and you don't want to do it again, you can simply delete it. You can have a look at the fleet, right? It contains the custom airframes. So these are the custom airframes, for example, for the A380X from Fly-by-Wire, the Phoenix A320 and the Salty 74S. And then you can directly click plan and simply start planning your flight with this aircraft. Weather integration. If you want to simply know the weather, you can also search for the weather, right? So, for example, if I want to know the weather at JFK, I can simply say search, and this will give me the latest information from JFK Airport. So, pretty nice. And then last but not least, right, the performance. So, for example, if we select the A3, and 200, we can see that it will give me an option to define, okay, hey, I want to fly from EHAM. Runway 18, fine for me. Then the takeoff weight, we need to enter it. What shall we do? 2000. I think it's far too low. But then once you've done that, right, takeoff weight is automatically adjusted. You can say calculate, and then it will show this nice graph, right, which allows you to calculate the takeoff performance, but also calculate the V1, the VR, and the V2 speeds, so that you can configure them in the aircraft yourself. So this, of course, for taking off, right, but you can also do it for departure. Although I don't see directly from here, but that's, I would say, nice, which you, of course, can do. And makes it easier, right? So enough about this, right? So let's close this window. Let's jump into an aircraft and let's look what has changed, for example, in the Cessna 172, which has the G1000 navigation system. So we're in the Cessna 172 and I've put both the, let's say, Navigraph version vs the Microsoft default version next to each other, so you can compare them. So the first thing which you will see is that the charts one has now not been grayed out, but you can click it. The first time you select this one, you need to, say, log in, but I already did it. And based on that, you can see that you can easily, say, view the maps, right? You can go to the info, you can go to the departure, you can go to the stars, you can go to the approaches, to the weather. So all kind of cool things which you can do. Besides that, you can also say show map, which will then default back to the normal view, right? So easily can be configured. And besides that, you also see that I can change the map, right? The view. So I can, for example, only show the header or only show the plan, which makes it easily accessible for you if you want to have a closer look. And by default, you'll also see the aircraft's location. So that's really nice. So for the next one, we need to go to the flight plan, right? So the flight plan is normally seen like this, but here you also have the option to, say, make some changes. And to do that, what we need to do is turn the large knob, and then the large knob, we need to turn it further, we need to turn it back. And if we go to this option, right, we can, first of all, we see the Navigraph settings, which are simply shown on my username and then the version. But if we move further down the line, you will also see that we've got a map, and this one contains the IFR VFR charts map. And that by default is not available in Flight Simulator 2024 if you don't own the Navigraph subscription, right? And I can easily now change it to the different maps. So I can say, for example, IFR low, I can move to IFR high, but also I can go to VFR as well as the world map. And by default, the follow option is selected, which means that it will follow your aircraft when you're flying, right? So a nice addition, which you can easily use within the simulator. Besides that, there is another option, and to do that, I need to again move the large knob again and then go to the active flight plan, where you also have the option to move to the flight plan catalog. And this is where you can see the flights which you planned using the built-in solution. All the flight plans are shown here, and you can easily select them, right? So I can say, hey, I want to push a knob. And if I do that, I will select the field, as you can see. And if I would zoom out a bit, and then I can press enter, and Come on. So I can, I would say, scroll the list, right? And then if I want to load the plan, I can activate it. So once I click activate, it will ask me, hey, are you okay to load the plan? I press enter, and then it will start loading the flight plan automatically into your, I would say, navigation system for Flight Simulator 2024. So inside the aircraft. This functionality works for all the aircrafts which have the Garmin G1000 and I would say are standard of Flight Simulator 2024 aircrafts. So really cool functionality. And as you could see, since they're both next, since I put both next to each other, there are a lot of changes which will really, I would say, make using this aircraft really nice. Let's switch to another one. In this case, we're gonna switch to the G3000. So we're in the TBM 930, which is one of the aircrafts which has, let's say, the G3000 navigation system. And you can already see that there are some changes here, right? So if I go to the PFD, you don't see many changes. But if you go to the MFD, you will see both the charts and the SimBrief over here. And the SimBrief is the new one. The charts, is it really new? Well, it depends, right? If you see that I now selected it, right, you need to press it again. And then you will be able to just show the maps, just like we saw in the Cessna 172. Really useful, but you need to do the navigation from here, right? So you need to select those ones here. Nice thing is that they are clickable, right? So it's, I would say, touchscreen. So you don't need to, say, do weird things with these kind of buttons. You can simply press it and then do it, right? So in this case, you can switch to the RNAV, right? It's really useful. The good thing is that you can also, I'd say, zoom in and out. You can do it using this button. And of course, you can also, I'd say, use the other buttons which are over here. But in this case, only, I would say, zooming in and out, that works. And then also you have the option to, let's say, do the, or press the right controller, right? And then you can show the interface, right? So this is really, I would say, how to pan, right? Because that's also important, because sometimes you want to navigate. In that case, you want to pan, right? So you can also pan the options. You can rotate the chart, etc., right? So let's go back. So if I want to push, I can do it, as you can see here. Rotate, also available here. Besides that, there is, of course, that option which I showed you previously, which was the SimBrief integration. Now, the SimBrief integration, similar compared to the Cessna 172, it allows you to simply say plan the flight, but this one is relatively easy. You can simply say request, and after it got the information, you can simply import it into your navigation system, and after that you can start flying around, right? So really cool, really nice integration within the TBM 930, as well as the other aircrafts which are having the G3000 or 5000 navigation system. Now jumping to the last one, which is the G3x Touch. So we're inside an aircraft with the G3x Touch. And if we press the menu option, you can of course configure multiple things. But if I press menu again, then I will get some other things. Like, for example, I can see the SimBrief integration already there. So let me click this one while the, I would say, aircraft is loading. And here you can also see that you can easily import it, but you can also delete the map from here, right? So that's a little bit different compared to the previous two ones. I do think that it's available, but likely we didn't press the wrong correct buttons. But here we can also say, hey, load the flight plan now. And then it will simply load the flight plan directly into the interface, which is, I would say, really useful. Now, if we go to the flight plan, we of course also have those maps. However, they're here shown as charts, and you can see that it still doesn't work 100% correctly. So likely that's something which they need to fix, because this is again the beta version of it. But here you can quickly show, okay, hey, this is the map, right, which can be used in this scenario, which can be, I would say, pretty useful. Besides that, you can also have the en route charts, right? So if I press en route charts, I can see, okay, multiple other things. The hardest thing about this one is, I would say, really navigating to the menus, right? If you press menu again, you will have the ability to fly VFR, right? The VFR map, but also the IFR low map. That's, I would say, relatively easy to switch to, but in some cases you might have some issues with it, finding it. So no charts map inside this. You first need to create your flight plan, and based on that, you can use the maps which are here. So again, nice, let's say, functionality. And as you can see next to this screen, you can see that the chart map is not available in the default Flight Simulator 2024 installation. So another good thing, I would say, for Navigraph. So putting everything together, is it worth the money? I do think that it's still worth the money, because I do think that they still have, let's say, a lot of additional tools and a lot of additional functionalities which are currently not in Flight Simulator 2024. I would say for 2020, right? It was a no-brainer. We can all agree on that. There was, I would say, lack of functionality where Navigraph jumped into that, I would say position, right, or hole, and created a lot of things for us. And now I think, let's say, with 2024, it becomes, let's say, maybe less obvious to select Navigraph. However, I do think that it's still worth the money because they're adding so much things and they're continuously developing new tools, right? So that's also something which you need to keep in mind, that they're continuously improving these tools. You will see more tools ongoing. So for example, when I first bought this subscription, there were a lot of tools not even available. And if I look where they are now, they've done a ton of things. They've added a lot of things, all kind of cool things, which I really like to use when playing Flight Simulator 2020 or 2024. Here ends this video. I hope you liked it and found it valuable. It's up to you, of course, to decide if you want to spend money on this. But if I were you, I would already know it. Thanks for watching and hope to see you back next time.